Coming up, Speaker's lawyer Thaddeus Sory responds to the Supreme Court's ruling saying there is no order allowing the 4 MPs back in Parliament. We'll explore what this means for the Supreme Court's ruling. Also coming up, Ministry of Education commences full investigation into allegations of distribution of expired rice to senior high schools, calling for criminal prosecution of the perpetrators. We have more as the service assures parents of the safety of all students. We have these plus business updates on your desk. My name is Faustina Safo. Take a seat. Please be my guest. Well, thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless and credible journalism. Now, there is no order saying the 4 MPs whose seats were declared vacant must be allowed back in Parliament. That's the initial reaction of the Speaker of Parliament's lawyer Thaddeus Sory to the 109-page reasoning of the Supreme Court. The Apex Court said a member of Parliament is only deemed to have vacated his seat if he changes his political affiliation and continues to serve in Parliament under a new party identity. Well, coming up on your screens now are extracts of that judgment from the Supreme Court. It says, according to the court, a member of Parliament is considered to have vacated their seat only if they change their political affiliation while remaining in Parliament under a new party identity. The court clarifies that Article 97(1)(g) and (h) of the Constitution applies strictly to the current parliamentary term. These provisions are not relevant to future terms, such as when an MP decides to stand for election under a different party in subsequent elections. The court's judgment indicates that the constitutional provision in question are specific to the present term of Parliament, emphasizing that they do not address an MP's political choices for future election cycles. Well, shortly after the release of the court's decision, the Speaker's lawyer, Thaddeus Sory, took to his Facebook page to put up a write-up, sort of challenging the Supreme Court's ruling. Now, on your screens is the copy of that write-up on Facebook. He says, in every case before the court's final judgment is based on the case presented to the court contained in the original papers filed by the plaintiff before the court. The majority judgment unequivocally admits that at the time the plaintiff filed his case, the Speaker's response to the statement made by the leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament, in capital letters, had not been made. Darko Asari, the Justice of the Supreme Court, admits that the plaintiff instituted his action on the 15th of the 10th, 2024, and the Speaker made his statement on the 17th of the 10th, 2024. The plaintiff's reliefs, therefore, did not pray the Supreme Court to declare the Speaker's response to the statement null and void. So that's his major argument. He goes on to say, Darko Asari, who is Justice of the Supreme Court, who wrote the lead judgment of the court, therefore clearly admitted that there was no course of action on which the plaintiff sought and obtained the order for the stay of execution. The effect of this admission also is that at all times, material to the judgment of the court, the plaintiff's case before the court disclosed no course of action because the case was not formally amended to reflect the change of circumstances. He goes on to say that Asiedu also concluded his judgment by disagreeing with the Speaker when he stated thus, quote, "In my humble view, therefore, it is incorrect and unconstitutional for the first defendant to rule that the members of Parliament concerned have vacated their seats in Parliament just for the reason that they have filed nominations to contest as members of parliament in the upcoming general election on the tickets of other than those on which they were voted as members of the current parliament. It is for these reasons that I grant relief one endorsed on the plaintiff's writ. His final words, however, were that he only grants reliefs one of the plaintiff's reliefs. None of these reliefs to declare the Speaker's response to the leader's statement null and void. He goes on to say there is no order saying that the MPs must be allowed in Parliament or order directing that Parliament recognizes said MPs as earlier ordered by the court contained in the majority decision of the court. The order staying execution of the Speaker's ruling is now spent, he says. So this is the long write-up by the Speaker's lawyer, Thaddeus Sory. Let's bring in Member of Parliament for Tafo, Vincent Eko Asifo. He's also a lawyer, just to get his thoughts on this, some legal education. And I'd like my directors to put in the last paragraph of Thaddeus Sory reads on the screen so that we could reference that. Educate us, because Thaddeus Sory's argument is that the court eluded an order, quote, saying that the MPs must be allowed in Parliament or an order directing that Parliament recognizes said MPs as earlier ordered by the court, contained in the majority decision of the court. I would like to find out from you, since the Supreme Court in its declaration that the Speaker's ruling and declaration of the 4-seat vacant is unconstitutional, was it necessary that the ruling indicated an order to Parliament?
Well, let me say a very good morning to you, to your cherished viewers. I just took my time to read what a senior colleague, learned colleague, Thaddeus Sory, has written. And I can simply say that this is legal pretense. Legal pretense in the extent that the absence of an order will not make a declaration a white elephant. Put differently, the fact that the Supreme Court did not give an order does not mean that the declaration therein is ineffective. One thing that we should know is that if you remember the Abu Ramadan case, when the Electoral Commission at the time felt that there were no consequential orders that was directed strictly at the Electoral Commission, and for that matter, the Electoral Commission failed to act, the plaintiffs went to court again, and the Supreme Court proceeded to direct the Electoral Commission. So in effect, even if Thaddeus Sory, as a lawyer to the Speaker of Parliament, advises his client that in the judgment there was no order that was directed at him, and for that matter should not act, the plaintiff, in this case, Afenya Markin, can go back to court to go and seek for those orders. Number one. Number two, we should also understand that majority and minority is not a creation of the Constitution. And that is why I was expecting Thaddeus Sory to rather commend the judges for exhibiting their deep understanding of the constitutional arrangement. Because what majority and minority is just a creation, or if you like, a creature of Parliament, and not a creation of Parliament, the Constitution. So the Supreme Court, when it assumes its interpretative jurisdiction and assumes to interpret the Constitution, cannot interpret the Constitution where those elements are not creatures of the Constitution. So the Supreme Court could not have directed anything like the Speaker of Parliament in determining what a majority or minority is. But a declaration that I expect the Speaker of Parliament, and if you like, Parliament by extension, to use its tenor procedure to enforce that declaration. And so in my estimation, yes, there has not been an order directed at the Speaker directly, but it is expected that Parliament will use its internal procedure to enforce it. If Parliament fails, if the Speaker of Parliament fails to do so, what can happen is that the plaintiff will go back to the Supreme Court to ask for further orders or to ask for further declarations directed at the Speaker, which the Speaker will not have any option than to follow. But I don't think that we have to get to that point.
Now, another key point he makes in his write-up, he says, in every case before the court's final judgment is based on the case presented to the court contained in the original papers filed by the plaintiff before the court. If the facts on which the plaintiff initially presented their case to the court changes, they want the court's decision to reflect the changed circumstances. They must formally change the original case by way of an amendment. The Supreme Court rules allow the plaintiffs to amend their statement of case. Now, he goes on to say, now the majority judgment admits that at the time the plaintiff filed his case, the Speaker's response to the statement made by the leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament had not been made. Sory admits that the plaintiff instituted his action, and he states the date on the 15th, and the Speaker made his statement on the 17th. Clarify for me the argument he's advancing here.
Well, whilst I agree to my senior colleague to a certain point, again, it is legal pretend. Because we need to look at the suit in its entirety. In the suit was an interlocutory injunction, stay of execution, and what have you, which my senior colleague had the opportunity to respond to some of them. Now, in the ex parte application, had it not been the fact that the Supreme Court, the Speaker of Parliament, even though at the time that he was giving his declaration, the suit has already been filed 2 days before, where there has not been any positive act or omission, which means that the suit was not properly before the Supreme Court. Had it been that there was no further action from the Speaker of Parliament, I would have agreed in its entirety with my senior colleague. However, lawyers will tell you, any time that reliefs are sought from the court, the last paragraph has always been that any further order that this court will deem fit, any further order or declarations that this court may deem fit. So it means that it does not necessarily have to be part of the relief that is being sought, but so much in the conscience and wisdom of the sitting judge, the trial judge, or the Supreme Court in this instance, in their own wisdom and conscience, may give further declarations that have not necessarily been sought for by the plaintiff, and give those orders to make sure that it gives effect to why the plaintiff came to court. In this particular instance, it is a declaration that has been made based on a parliamentary matter, which parliamentary matter is of public interest. And so the Supreme Court had every right under the laws of Ghana to make further declarations or further orders that has not been sought for by the plaintiffs. And so it is not legal pretend. I don't see why my senior colleague will be making this argument.
So in spite of the fact that the Supreme Court in its ruling did not include a direct order to Parliament, its declaration that the Speaker's declaration on the floor is unconstitutional is automatically binding and the Speaker must adhere to same?
Absolutely. And that is why I just said that it is just respect to parliamentary processes. The Supreme Court has shown that indeed they understand deeply our constitutional arrangements. And our constitutional arrangements are that, yes, the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive are all subservient to the Constitution of Ghana because we practice a constitutional supremacy. Anytime the Supreme Court sits to interpret the Constitution, it needs to interpret the Constitution in terms of things that are in the Constitution and not things that are not in the Constitution. That is why I made mention of the fact that the majority and the minority platform is not the creator of the Constitution. So the Supreme Court, when it sits to interpret the Constitution, cannot be seen to be directing Parliament as to what majority is and what minority is.
As we wrap up the conversation, I just wanted to get clarity. Because you're a member of Parliament, you're abreast with the standing orders of Parliament. Now, Roxy Nelson Dafia-McVoy, a member of the NDC, says that Parliament must give effect to the Supreme Court's ruling, such that the Speaker would have to inform the House of this ruling before the usual sitting in Parliament would take effect. Is that the case?
That is not the case. Okay. And I'm surprised that argument has been made over and over. That is not the case. You know why that is not the case?
Why?
The difference between this particular suit, this writ, and that of the ex parte application is that the ex parte application was made without notice to the defendant. That means that at that point, the defendants in law and in principle are not aware of the processes in court. And for that matter, if there is any ruling from that ex parte application, you have to serve the ruling on the defendant. And that is how come with the ex parte ruling that was staying in the hands of the Speaker of Parliament, it needed to be served before the Speaker of Parliament will make an announcement to that effect. But the difference with this one is that this is a suit that the plaintiff went unnoticed, i.e., the defendant has been served of the notice and they have knowledge of the suit. And for that matter, they cannot pretend that they are unaware of the suit that is in court. So the plaintiff or the court need not serve the Speaker of Parliament before it can assume to make a declaration to that effect. What has been said by the Supreme Court is final. There needs not be any kind of service or any information to the Speaker of Parliament for the Speaker of Parliament to also make any announcement. We have all taken judicial notice of what has happened at the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Echo Vincent Sefa, his lawyer and MP for Old Tafo. Away from Parliament, the Ministry of Education says it is investigating the alleged distribution of expired rice to senior high schools. Well, this follows a request by the North Tongue MP, Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa, for a probe into the allegations that a company named Lamens Africa Limited had repackaged 22,000 bags of the expired rice, which has been allegedly consumed by students in senior high schools.
My investigation has revealed that the National Food Buffer Stock Company clearly conspired with a company known as Lamens Africa Investments Limited. And they used the buffer stock storage facility in Kumasi in the Ashanti region to repackage expired rice. They brought in rice from India. The brand is Moshosho rice, which expired in December 2023. That was the best before date. They then conspired with the buffer stock company to use their premises for rebagging. So they obtained different bags, this time with the inscription ECOWAS, made in Ghana rice, without an expiry date. And they transferred the expired rice into these bags. Fortunately, there was a tip-off to the Ashanti Regional Police Command and the FDA.
Right.
They moved in and sought to prevent the whole criminal conduct from continuing. So the police closed down the place. I have intercepted letters that the Ashanti Regional Police wrote to the FDA asking that the samples that they had retrieved from this criminal enterprise be tested. We are at a point where there ought to be prosecution. The company laments. I have intercepted documents where they have admitted to their wrongdoing and agreed to pay a fine, a paltry fine of 100,000 cedis, when you have jeopardized the health of thousands of Ghanaian students. And even the fine, they've only paid half, and they can't be located to pay the rest. Can you believe that? And what makes this whole scandal so frightening, so traumatizing, is that the FDA results shows that the rice was so contaminated. It had insects. It had a very high fat acidity. And medical doctors who have seen the FDA test results say that this rice should have been destroyed. It's not even good for animals.
Well, Mr. Blakwa, you are MP and head of the Assurances Committee in Parliament. What further steps are you taking on the matter?
So we have discussed, we've had a meeting with the leadership of our caucus. I've also had discussions with the leadership of the Education Committee and members of my committee. We are collaborating on this. We are immediately demanding that the IGP arrest the directors of Lamens Investments Africa Limited. And then we are demanding questions. We're demanding answers to these questions. Why is it that the FDA, the Ashanti Regional Police Command, their work was truncated, orders from above, and they were not allowed to destroy the rice? We need answers. Why did the Food and Buffer Stock Company conspire with Lamens to use their premises for this criminal enterprise? Why did the Food and Buffer Stock Company not register their premise, their storage facility, with the FDA as the Public Health Act at 851 requires? So if you look at the chain, there are so many institutions who have questions to answer, who have let our students down, have let parents down, have let the Ghanaian people down. And in the next few days, we are going to be demanding answers to these questions.
Well, the Ministry of Education, in response, says it has begun immediate investigations into the matter, including a possible criminal prosecution. Kwesi Kwarteng, who is the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry, put out a Facebook post just clarifying what exactly the Ministry will be doing next. And it's on your screens now. It says, the Ministry of Education attention has been drawn to allegations made by Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa regarding the supply of expired food items to some senior high schools. We would like to first express our appreciation to Mr. Ablakwa for bringing this matter to our attention, as such feedback is valuable in our ongoing efforts to ensure quality education. We take these allegations seriously and, as a matter of urgency, have commenced full investigation. The ministry has also engaged the National Food Buffer Stock Company and the Ghana Commodity Exchange, the entities responsible for the supply and distribution of food to senior high schools. Together, we have launched a thorough investigation into the issue raised by Okujeto Ablakwa. We assure students, parents, guardians, and the public of our commitment to protecting the health and safety of every student under our care. Rest assured, we will pursue this matter to the end and provide updates to the public as our investigation progresses. Still on education, the Ghana National Association of Private Schools and the Ghana National Council of Private Schools are calling for an end to government's 30% priority placement system. They say this denies private school students admission to top public institutions in the country. Executive Director for the Ghana National Council of Private Schools, Obingfo Nana Kwesi Jitwa, joins us via Zoom with more of their concern. We'll also be getting reactions from individuals in the education sector, specifically the Executive Director for the Institute of Education Studies, Mr. Anti. Thank you so much for your time here, Mr. Obingfo. Let's start with your primary concern. Why do you feel that the 30% priority placement quota ought to be taken out?
Thank you very much, and good morning to your cherished listeners this morning.
Good morning.
I know very well that some weeks past we discussed this extensively on your show, but it's very important also to reiterate the point. Because as at that time we indicated our intention, and as for your information, the petition that we indicated the intention has fully been filed. But just quick to your question, we have already alluded to the fact that the activities of private education in Ghana is not an illegal activity. It's a legal activity that has a constitutional backing to that effect. And more specifically, the Article 25, Clause 2 actually put a responsibility and legal obligation on the individual who set up a school, because it reads that anyone has the right to set up a school with a view of maintaining such institution. And so we believe that if we have been very adherent to the law and has really been able to maintain our schools and positive outcomes has been emerged, it does not warrant for any punishment for that. We are not the custodian of educational resources to be provided to the public schools. As citizens in Ghana, what we are demanded of is to pay our taxes, and then institutions that are mandated, such as Ministry of Education, uses such revenues to provide adequate resources for any other activity that the country engage upon. So for the ministry to justify this approach on the mere basis that they have not been able to provide educational resources to the public education community, and for that matter, their effort is not completed if they don't give them 30% allocation. We see it as a misplaced, decision, and for that matter, it must be taken out from the context. Because we equally also have 70% of private schools in the country that international bodies like USAID and other bodies are even currently supporting them, classify them as low-cost private schools in the hinterlands. And so if you want to be equitably distribution of national resources and policies, why don't you also include some of these schools into these packages? Because when you go to certain communities, you wouldn't even see public schools in those areas. And for that matter, parents in those areas are not choosing private schools as a mere of a luxury, but a necessity, because that is the only source of education that they have. So coupled with other legal obligations and legal provisions enshrined in our constitution, we see that the kind of action taken by the ministry and based on our previous conversations, try as much as possible to dialogue and solve the issue. We have concluded in a sense that we need to take up a bold step to petition Strat, which we have done. And yesterday we did a press conference to actually put on notice to all the general public the intentions that we have taken and the steps that we are on it to ensure that fairness and equitable distribution of national educational resources and materials reach all intended Ghanaian learners. The other point that we have also spoken about it is that it is not about only the interest of private education that we are fronting this kind of fight. It is based on the fact that if you allow such situation to be turning around the educational system, it will eventually reduce the standards education that we have set for ourselves. Because if educational infrastructures such as textbooks, desks, supervision, and other things are not in place, we don't believe that a near-jerk policy like 30% allocation will be the best option to fix such canker.
So let me go into the petition to Suraj. What are the key reliefs you are seeking, and is there a timeline to when they would be done with the investigations?
All right. So we know that the Article 1218 of the 1992 Constitution mandates Suraj to investigate matters that borders on human rights issues. And that is the first thing that we have invoked such jurisdiction to ensure that Suraj investigates these complaints that we have already made. And two, immediately sanctioned the abolition of the 30% allocation to the Category A schools immediately, so that the Ministry of Education will be debarred not to be able to implement such policy. And then the third one is to come out with instruct the Ministry of Education to engage all key stakeholders so that a meritorious or a meritocratic system of admission will be applied in our educational system. And these are the major three reliefs that we are seeking. In terms of timelines, we know very well that Suraj is going to be very proactive, and they are working within the time frame that their regulation has set out for them. However, we have already articulated that within the end of this month, if further engagement has not been made and we have not gotten any conclusive ideas from Suraj, it serves as a 30 days notification that we have to qualify to notify the Attorney General and proceed to the High Court to invoke the jurisdiction of the High Court in these human rights issues.
Thank you. Let's bring in now Dr. Peter Anti. He is Executive Director for the Institute of Education Studies. Thank you so much for your time here on News 6. Now, this organization have sent a petition to Suraj. As part of the key reliefs they are seeking is that for government to remove the 30% quota they place on, public institutions during the placements of senior high school students. But then one would question the timing. Why now? Because we have most schools already opened and students already in place.
Thank you very much for this. Good morning to your viewers. First and foremost, I think that we need to know the rationale for the introduction of that 30%. All the conversations that I've heard and been privy to seems to suggest that it's supposed to be a mechanism to ensure that most of the students in the public schools get access to the best schools, the Category A schools, because technically it seems that their performance would not give them that opportunity. And most of these schools are dominated by private schools. So that seems to be the rationale. But I think that in doing that, there should have been a broader consultation among the various stakeholders so that a clear understanding of how that 30% would be operationalized would have come to there. But I also note, as I agree with you in terms of the timing, because this issue has been at the forefront for some time now. I was thinking that the private schools have had a lot of engagement with the relevant authorities. And I was thinking that we would have, started this teaching long before the release of the school placement, so that by the time that process maybe would finish whatever it is that they have to give, we would have known the direction, and hence people who will benefit from it would be in private school the final years in private school this year. But unfortunately, they have now started. It means that any benefit, in case it happens, would be for those who would leave junior high school in the coming year. I really think so. I will say about this, because for me, that 30% beats the principle of equity in terms of because the placement we are told is done based on merit. So if that's what is supposed to be the case, why do you give special dispensation to public school candidates because we feel that they might not perform, or the private schools will outperform them. So it will be an interesting case to know what the outcome will be in coming days.
Let me just wrap up with Mr. Obingfo as we end the conversation. I'll pose the same question to you. Why now, though?
So why now is that over the years, we believe that we are part of the ministry, and for that matter, we have to always judge and find amicable solution to the issues. So beginning of this year, we had a meeting on the same matter, and we all resolved with the ministry that there are over 70% of the low-cost private schools that indeed, if this policy is to strengthen and give equal access to learners who are underserved in those communities, should be also part. And for that matter, we submitted data to that effect. So we were anticipating that at this point, this current placement system would have included them in the placement and giving them the same leverage. The last meeting we had with the ministry pointed out that, yes, indeed, our private schools learners had the best grades, and they could not include them in this policy. And then we felt that it's a denial, it is a sort of betrayal that the ministry, didn't go by their consensus agreement that we had. And that is the reason why we have to act in a different manner. So that has been the background. We didn't just, wake up one day and say that we are going for judicial review or we are going for this route. We decided to engage first. And since the ministry has failed in all their promises, that is why at this point in time, we decided to activate the independent body to come on board and ensure fairness prevail.
Thank you so much, Mr. Obingfo Nanakwesi. Now, let's wrap that conversation. If you have any thoughts to share with us on any stories we've done so far, please share them with us. We're Joe News on TV on all our social media handles. Now, the Borno Regional Minister, Justina Owusu, is advocating for targeted interventions for metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies with tools, resources and necessary skills to manage electoral areas effectively. Speaking at the Delegates Conference of the National Association of Local Authorities of Ghana in Suyan, she said such interventions will ensure autonomy and the support to drive local development is expected. Precious Semevo has more in this report.
The 22nd Biennial National Delegates Conference of the National Association of Local Authorities of Ghana, NALAG, is a unique chance for the members to reflect on the progress made and the challenges faced in empowering the local governance structures. The President, Eric Nanajiman Prempeh, noted electoral areas as the foundation of local governance, where the voices of the people are heard, such that it is imperative to prioritize their development as a strategic move towards national development. He, however, said some local government acts and the constitution require amendment to enhance the work of NALAG members.
As an association, NALAG made several proposals for amendment to local government acts as well as the constitution. This includes emoluments and ex gratia for assembly members to be charged against the consolidated fund and the election of MLDCs. Requirement for a two-thirds majority of members in the election of presiding members among members. I am using this opportunity to appeal to the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to lead the advocacy for this proposed amendments.
Speaking on the theme Empowering Local Governance, a New Dawn for Electoral Area Development, Borno Regional Minister Justina Owusu said equipping members of the MMDAs with targeted interventions will drive local development.
We need to equip our local government representatives with the tools, resources and skills necessary to manage their electoral areas effectively. This requires targeted interventions in capacity building, financial resources and policy formulation to ensure that our metropolitan, municipal and district assemblies have the autonomy and the support to drive local development. The empowerment also comes with responsibility. That is one that demands transparency, accountability, and decision-making at the local level. It is only when our local governance institutions are accountable to the people they serve that we can truly unlock the potential of our electoral areas.
Chief of Atibubo Himpon Dr. Yebo Esiama said the unique position of chiefs in the communities requires their full integration into local governance.
Our influence shapes and fosters communal harmony, social discipline, and cultural identity. Therefore, let us ensure that our chiefs are fully integrated into the decision-making processes at the various levels. This approach is not only rooted in respect for our heritage, but it also strengthens trust and legitimacy in local government structure. By recognizing the role of our chiefs and ensuring their involvement, we are better equipped to address the unique needs of our communities.
Precious Semevo, Joy News, Sunyai.
Well, thanks for staying with us. A non-governmental organization, Pencils of Promise, has commissioned a 3-unit classroom block for deprived communities in the Adaklu Seva District Assembly. Now, this is geared towards improving the human resources of the Adaklu district through the provision of requisite educational infrastructure and logistics to enhance the training of learners. Fred Kwame Asare has more in the following report.
Adaklu Seva District Assembly Basic School was housed under palm frond and thatch structures. Through the Member of Parliament and Pencils of Promise, a 3-unit classroom block was constructed for the kindergarten department in 2019. 5 years on, the same partnership has seen the completion of another 3-unit classroom block. The country director of Pencils of Promise, Freeman Goba, said the initiative stems from his outfit's objective to ensure schools in their operational regions have full complement of infrastructure.
As an organization, we continue to support this school and all the other 206 schools that we have built across the 3 regions in Ghana. Ayata, we want to assure all our donors, supporters who believe in the dream of Adam Brown and also believe in the staff in all the 3 countries that we work in, that will continue to use their resources well to the benefit of the communities that we serve.
The headmaster of the Adaklu Seva District Assembly Basic School, Noah Adeti, described the provision of the classroom as a legacy.
What a legacy we are fortunate to witness today. With this 3-unit classroom, we are inauguration today or commission today means we have 6 unit classrooms awaiting the completion of the Get Farm project to add up to 9 classes. But from KG to JSS3, there are 11 classes. So we are in need of 2 more classes, a library, computer lab, and teachers' bungalow. We are therefore asking the person of Promise to help us in this direction.
The Member of Parliament for Adaklu, Kwame Agbuja, lauded the contributions of Pencils of Promise to the human resource capacity development of the Adaklu district.
So as far as I'm concerned, I am very satisfied with my work because it's not about calling me honorable. It's about the fact that through Pencils of Promise, we are not building schools, we are building futures. Freeman, if it will not be too much for you, consider at least a 2-unit classroom block. The library will manage. So the teachers, my commitment to you is that the next project that I would help here is to build a teachers' bungalow, at least 3 units, so that at least 3 teachers will be residents here.
Fred Kwame Asare, Joy News, Adaklu, Seva.
Well, it's time now for business updates. We'll be back after this breather.
A great morning to you and a warm welcome to the business segment on Joy News Desk with me, Pius Kojo-Baka. In an effort to enhance securities trading and the Central Securities Depository plans to leverage technology to drive financial inclusion, This was disclosed by the Depository's Chief Executive, Joseph Okolate, speaking at the 20th anniversary launch and unveiling of CSD's new logo. Mr. Lati explained that the move, which is expected to commence by the first half of 2025, will improve information flow on the trade of securities.
A depository is basically a bank. It's a bank for securities. You should look at it that way. Your account is credited when you buy, your account is debited when you sell. Now, when you go to a bank today, all banks have mobile, they have internet banking. Why not the depository? So we are bringing on board the investor portal. It empowers the investor so that investor sees everything that happens on their securities account. What we are also doing is, because we are bringing the investor portal, we are democratizing the space. So if somebody is in Tumu, they don't have to come to Accra or Kumasi or any regional capital to open a securities account. We want to make it easy for them. Look at what banks have done with fintechs and mobile money. Now, the mobile money space teaches us that technology and this device, the mobile phone, is such a powerful tool. That's where we want to drive the market to. So we can grow the market, grow the cake, so that all Ghanaians enjoy in it.
The Actuarial Society of Ghana says the tremendous change in regulations surrounding the conduct of financial services in Ghana requires the urgent look at regulatory issues and adaptation of emerging technologies. President of the Actuarial Society of Ghana, Neil Tego, spoke to Joy Business at the Actuaries Connect Conference 2024.
Over time, the world is moving fast with innovations, with other tools that could be used to enhance our jobs, like generative AI. And that's a tool that we have to look at how best it can help the profession grow. So we're looking at a few regulatory issues, and then professionalism, and then innovation. We are trying to talk around it and engage ourselves and think ahead in order to be able to sustain the profession in the next few decades that has to come. So that is why we set up this conference. And it's going to help all of us to know how to maneuver through this current advance in technology, advance in insurance, tech, and all that. So that's why we're holding this conference.
For business for now.
That's how we wrap up the bulletin. It's been a great week. I can't wait to be here same time, same station next week. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. Some top stories there coming up on your screen shortly. Expired rights for students, Education Ministry vows consequences. You can go and read that and get more understanding on myjoyonline.com. Also, Ghana ranked among the best in Africa for quality of elections, and that is from the Electoral Commission. My name is Faustina Safa. Have a pleasant morning as you enjoy the rest of our programs.